Hello and welcome to episode 20 of Friends of the Show. I am Stephen W. Skinner, and this is a podcast where I talk with my funniest and most interesting friends. These are the Friends of the Show. This week's friend has been a friend of the show since the beginning. He has been mentioned often, and I'm talking, of course, about Timmy at the Timmy Toes. A very funny and nice fellow indeed. On the show, Timmy recalls the time he refereed with a future NHLer, and we try to figure out why he is enemies with so many babies. Friends of the Show, episode 20, with the Timmy Toes. Right now.
You face forward, or you face the possibility of shock and damage. Brodie Bruce, Mallrats, 1995.
Yes, Mallrats. Thank you very much to Timmy for providing that quote, and welcome to the show, Timmy.
Hi, Steven. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm great. Great to have you on. So for the listeners, we're talking to Timmy at the Timmy Toes on Twitter. Used to be Ween Beans.
Yeah, rip Ween Beans.
Was that supposed to stay secret? Yeah, it used to be Ween Beans, and then you graduated to the Timmy Toes.
Yeah, it probably should have been Timmy Toes from the beginning, but Ween Beans was kind of a off the shooting from the hip choice, and I regretted it later.
You just freeballed it. So, you're just like, signing up for Twitter. What should my handle be? I'm going to think about this for 0 seconds. Ween Beans.
No, it was literally at like 2:30 in the morning, and I was like, I need to have a different Twitter account right now. And like my brain could not allow me to just wait and think of a good name. So I ended up with Ween Beans for a while. And it served me well. But ultimately, I feel like Timmy Toes is
Timmy Toes is the brand. Ween Beans was the training wheels.
That's true.
I don't know. Had some good tweets. Like sometimes I go to search some of your old tweets that I love so much and I want to retweet, and I forget that I have to search Ween Beans instead. So when did you make the switch? How long were you Ween Beans?
Oh boy, I think it was probably like 3 or 4 months or something like that. It seemed longer at the time. I guess I've been on for a couple of years now, so. Yeah, it was only a few months, I think. I was Ween Beans.
Seemed like a lifetime. Well, you still managed to squeeze out some of your all-time classic tweets.
I think that might actually be a bad thing. You know, like it feels like a really long time since I've had what feels as a good tweet. Right at the beginning, they seem to come a little easier for some reason.
Yeah, you're
less pressure maybe.
Firing them out. Yeah, maybe less pressure with the lower follower count.
Yeah, when you have like 25 followers, you really there's no reason not to just put it all out there.
Just tweet the dumbest kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely do not look back fondly on all my early days of Twitter where I would use hashtags as punchlines and additional tags of jokes. Yeah, a lot of my early tweets have a lot of hashtags in them.
Hey man, I'm guilty of that as well.
I thought that's
how it was. That's how we thought it was supposed to be done, right?
Back in the day, you know, it's like back in the 50s when you just throw your garbage on the ground. You just didn't know any better that you would put it in the garbage bin, right?
Right.
So live and learn. As we grow, we become wise.
Mm-hmm.
Don't use hashtags.
Yes.
Great. Well, I'm glad that we got to the bottom of that Ween Beans controversy. Let's talk about your quote. Why the quote from Mallrats? Classic Kevin Smith movie.
Correct. Yeah. Mallrats was one of my all-time favorite movies. Still is. But it was, I think I probably watched it, once a month in high school. It got to be an obscene kind of a thing. And so I go to this quote just because it's such a kind of ridiculous moment in the movie. It's just kind of an off the cuff gag where he gets hit in the face immediately after saying the quote. But it kind of stuck with me because it's something that I do think that I need to work on sometimes. And it's just the idea that you kind of have to avoid dwelling on the past and kind of just be in the moment and looking forward and ready for what's ahead instead of kind of obsessing over what has happened.
Oh,
So I like
wow.
that quote.
Yeah, that's a great pull from that quote. I wasn't sure that I got all that from the quote, but now that you mention it,
Well, like
it
I said, I
definitely
spent a lot of
applies.
time with it.
Oh, for sure. One of those movies where you could quote every line kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. What's your favorite part of the movie? Spoiler alert, in case you haven't seen Mallrats from 1995.
Yeah, I guess I couldn't put my finger on one part, but the kind of the end culminating scene with the game show is a classic.
That's a
With
classic
Brodie on
scene.
stage, yeah, just hounding the host and everything. It's
Great scene. Yeah, everybody's great in that. Brodie, probably the best character, but Ben Affleck makes an appearance.
That's true. He says some line. He actually said, I was thinking about this when I was trying to come up with a quote, and his thing was, like somebody said, like, don't you think or whatever happened to the customer's always right? And he says, let me tell you something. The customer's always an asshole. And he's supposed to be like a dick in this moment, but
Yeah.
like that's like maybe the truest thing.
It's true.
Because I don't know if anyone has worked in customer service or
Retail.
food service or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like often the case.
Yeah.
Customers can be pretty bad.
Thank you for selecting that quote. Again, great movie. Shout out to Jason Lee for a great performance as Brodie. Great movie, and moving on. So for the listeners, Timmy is one of my very good pals I've met through Twitter, and I'm very excited to have him on the show after much begging and pleading and haranguing. So
On my part, right?
yes, thank you.
Get me on the dang show.
So I finally twisted your arm and you agreed to be on, so I do appreciate it. I think we mentioned Timmy's coming in from the Southwest USA. I'm talking about Texas. Yeehaw.
Yep. Deep in the heart of Texas.
Yeah, tell us about that. I noticed that you don't have a deep southern drawl.
No, I am not from Texas originally. I'm from Michigan. Been some other places, but currently in Texas. It's definitely a different place from anywhere I've lived before. There's things to like, and there's many things not to like. I guess I don't want to get too...
Let's get into it. All right, Texas people, plug your ears. We're going to get into it. Texas, you're going to get roasted. Let's do a couple of inconveniences of living in Texas compared to, let's say, I don't know, Michigan. And then the good things end on a positive note for all us Texas listeners.
I think that the most annoying thing about Texas is that it's like pretty normal, honestly. Like everything is the same size here. There's nothing that's like...
I thought everything was bigger.
Well, that's what I was told, but it seems that that's not the case. It's mostly just the borders of the state
that are bigger.
Okay, pretty much. That's all that I've been able to identify.
So things are the same size generally.
Yeah, which is a little bit of a disappointment, to be honest. But seriously, like everybody has like a very or people that love Texas have a very outspoken point of view about Texas. And it's like, it's difficult to put my finger on exactly what part of that hasn't been lived up to. But I just, for me, I go to work and I come home and I just don't feel like a cowboy.
I guess part of it being you're transplanted from the north, thrown into this hot oven of a state.
But shouldn't it just rub off if it was?
I
really
would
that
imagine.
good?
I'm surprised that you don't have some sort of like drawl or.
I'm gonna get so much heat
or
from all of you Texas listeners because people really do love the state of Texas.
And I'm sure there's a million great reasons to love Texas. Let's talk about those. What are your
state income tax?
Is that true?
That is true.
Holy moly!
So people's paychecks are a little more generous than they would be elsewhere, which is definitely a good thing. But on the other hand, there's very little funding for things that may be arguably needed, such as... Well, I won't get into it, but at any rate, there are other political kind of reasons that I don't necessarily align with the main Texas feel.
Right.
But
Texas, we're talking a red state.
Texas is red, although the cities in Texas are blue, just like they are pretty much everywhere else.
Oh, right. Yeah, you got your little bastions of liberal groups that are there. What are those cities? Austin? Is that no?
Yeah, Austin, Houston, Dallas, even San Antonio. But I guess there's just so much land, so much area that it's just kind of overpowered by the rural areas.
The rural areas. Do you ever go out there to the rural areas?
I don't get out too much. To be perfectly honest, there's not a whole lot for me to go to or from. So, no. We drove through it on the way to move to Texas,
right.
And we'll drive through it on the way to move out of Texas.
Right.
And that's how probably it'll stay.
We'll see you never, rural Texas.
I feel so bad.
It's mostly cows, though, right? I mean, I drove through Texas also, all the way through, and from what I remember, it was mostly cows, like huge,
cows and
huge fields of cows, and then nothing, yeah. But then you could smell it, and you're like, "Oh, more cows are coming up."
Yeah.
Well, good job. Shout out to Texas. It's not all bad, right?
Right. It's not all bad.
So that brings us to your story. The time I refereed a kids 3-on-3 hockey tournament with 4-time Stanley Cup champion Chris Kunitz.
Yeah, so at the time he was not a 4-time Stanley Cup winner. So just to be clear, I don't have like an in with anybody. I don't know anybody famous. I don't do anything that would put me in a situation where I would be interacting with people that are famous or good at anything. But the town that I happen to be from has a college with a Division I hockey team. And the time that I was in, I guess it was the end of middle school, beginning of high school, I for money, I would referee like small child hockey,
yes.
Pee-wee hockey.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would go out for, like there'd be like a pool of games that'd be available, and you just kind of like, it wasn't like luck of the draw, but I can't exactly remember how they decided, but they would basically assign you games to referee. And so one weekend I got assigned a couple of 3-on-3 little kid games, and you don't know who you're going to be refereeing with. It's usually just some other kid or some person from the town that referees. And so I showed up, and it was Chris Kunitz. And a little backstory: he played college hockey at this university. Well, it's Ferris State University, I guess.
Go! Yeah, shout out to them. Go! What is their team called?
Bear State Bulldogs.
Go Bulldogs!
Yeah, so he was on their hockey team, and so they're kind of a big deal in the little town that I'm from, and so it was immediate recognition. So it was kind of a bizarre thing because you just walk into this dingy little crap locker room, and I'm getting my skates on, and then here's this guy Chris Kunitz who was a finalist for the Hobie Baker Award his senior year, which was that year. That happened after that, but nevertheless, if anyone doesn't know, the Hobie Baker Award is like the Heisman Trophy for college hockey. It's the best college hockey player in the country.
And so that's when he won it, was just after you skated with them.
Yeah, so it was kind of a bizarre experience just already. Because he was kind of a celebrity in our town, and so I got to skate around a little half sheet with him refereeing little kid hockey, and it's kind of like it's almost like a teacher kind of a role when you're a referee for little kids, because you are almost like showing them where to go and what to do. So it was kind of a fun experience to have him there and interact with the little kids and everything, and he was super nice, and he was just having a good time. And it was kind of weird that he I guess just volunteered to ref the games. I don't exactly know why, but nevertheless, it was just kind of a cool thing at the time. But what I didn't know or maybe expect was later on he would obviously go on to a very successful NHL career where he's won several Stanley Cups, and I think he actually just got traded. He was on the Pittsburgh Penguins for several years. But anyway, yeah, so as I was trying to come up with a story, that's the only story that I have where I've interacted with anybody that has a recognizable name. And even that, like, I bet you nobody listening to this podcast has heard of Chris Kunitz before, but
Well,
I assure
I
you,
mean,
he's extremely good.
I do have some Canadian listeners, so I'm sure that several of my listeners will know the name Chris Kunitz. That sort of really emphasizes the difference between life in the North with Jon Snow and then life in the South. So that's like North's version of Friday Night Lights, is that college D1 hockey, and then in the South it would be football.
That's right. Yeah, so it was a big deal at the time, but it became a bigger deal over time as he became more and more successful. So he wasn't really a national celebrity. I mean, he's not really a national celebrity, but I mean, he wasn't. He didn't have a big name back then, but I knew who he was, and I was excited about it.
Yeah, that's very cool that you were excited about it even way back then, and since then, the excitement has grown.
That's right. It's really the only brush with fame.
That's your only brush with fame. That's it.
That's it.
And there's no big Texas celebs hanging out at your coffee shop, or?
Afraid not.
Well, Chris Kunitz, pretty good get, I'd say. Podcast listeners, pretty good get. Can't complain about that. And 3-on-3, that's some fast-paced hockey, right?
Well, it would. I mean, yeah, but like
Normally,
I said, these are like 8-year-olds,
right?
So it's really
a lot of chasing the puck. A lot of everybody chasing the puck.
Yeah. Like I said, you have to show them where to line up before you do the face-off. That's
part of the fun.
It's a lot of fun, but it's not. I mean, it's not real hockey.
Right. Not many people game betting on it.
No, only the parents, and getting into horrible fights.
The parents are the worst. Did you have to deal with any bad parents? Because that is something that I do know. The hockey parents, right? Because being Canadian, it's sort of the soccer mom. Here is the hockey mom.
Yes, I had to deal with lots of horrible parents, and I guess the one good thing about hockey is, well, at least at the rink that I reffed at, was they did have glass, so the only people that could actually get close to me were like the coaches, who were also parents, of course. But so
Yep.
The abuse from that side, there was maybe only like 3 or 4 of them on the bench that could be like reaching out into the ice and yelling and screaming. Whereas the rest of the parents were kind of like behind this glass. The worst they could do is kind of like scream obscenities, which was insane because like these are like little kids, right?
That's the part that makes no sense. How the parents get super invested, right? Like they put all their hopes and dreams into this little kid who's like 6 years old who just wants to have fun, and they're like, "You will make the NHL." Like,
yeah,
well, maybe he won't, because the odds are definitely not.
Yeah, and I mean, because with little kids, the people there's non-contact below a certain level, and so there's no checking or anything like that. But these little kids literally can't control themselves well enough not to knock into each other and run into each other every now and again, and so those typically would not be called penalties, but these parents would get besides themselves.
Yeah, well, if it's your kid that gets knocked over.
Right. So it was actually kind of nerve-wracking because, as an adult doing that, it's like probably nothing. But I was, relatively young. I was like 13 or 14 years old. So it got kind of under my skin a little bit, I'll be honest. It was kind of scary.
Dealing with those crazy parents who were screaming.
Yeah, and the coaches really, like I said, were maybe there were a handful of coaches that were really bad apples that would just berate the referees, kind of regardless of the situation, which I guess maybe is like a coaching style.
Yeah, it's just part of it, right? Just wear them down until they don't ever want to call a penalty against you.
Yeah, it seemed a little overboard for
that level.
8 and under. Yeah.
Yeah, people get crazy. Hopefully some of those kids went on to Division 1.
I don't think any of those kids went on to anything. And that's what I tell myself when I look back on all the missed calls that I had.
Yeah, you should have called them. You should have
called those guys.
Should have listened to the parents. That was boarding!
Yeah, it wasn't just your kid catching an edge and falling in the ice.
Well, that's cool. I guess you never tossed any parents, right? I know referees who do that. That's like the one thing you can do. You just toss that parent. You're like, you're out of here.
No, I never had the balls to do that. Although maybe some of them would have deserved it. But I did know, I mean, certainly, like you said, there were other referees that I worked with that had had to throw people out of the arena.
Yeah, I mean, it happens.
Which is nuts.
It's nuts. It's
nuts.
just little kids hockey, everybody. Just take it easy. Have a good time. Great. Well, what a lovely story. And shout out to Chris Kunitz, wherever you are. So the next story that I'm going to wring out of you is the time you outran the cops in your used stock 1999 Honda Civic. We love a good getaway chase on the podcast. If everyone will recall, Travis had one.
That's right. Yeah. That's what kind of made me think of this. In fact, I hadn't even remembered that this had happened until I heard that story. So,
well, shout out to Travis.
Yeah, shout out to Travis.
Professor Hinckley on Twitter. Yeah, everyone check him out and check out his episode where he talks about his brush with the law.
Yeah, mine is not quite as up close and personal, but it actually, if at the time, seemed really, really dramatic to me. So, again, where I'm from is a little town, and so there's not a whole lot going on, and there's most of the streets are just surface streets. You know, there's like one freeway that goes through the town. Anyway, I guess this must have happened when I was in 10th grade or something like that, 10th or 11th grade. I had probably just gotten my license.
Yeah, new driver
in my brand new used 1999 Honda Civic, 2-door silver, 4-cylinder.
We all know it. We've all seen it.
Probably something like 1.4 liters, nothing above stock, nothing above standard. It had power windows, which I thought was
that's a blessing.
Really amazing, right? Yeah. But at any rate, this is not a fast car to kind of set things up here. So in the area of town where I lived, it was kind of on the transition between, in-town speed limits and out-of-town speed limits. So it must have been a 25 mile per hour zone and a 55 mile per hour zone. So there was an intersection. Let me set the stage here. There's an intersection that was a T where the road that I was on was headed out of town. This is the one that transitioned from 25 to 55. And there was a road that intersected it kind of at the bottom of a hill. And, I was kind of a daredevil. So I was going maybe 35 in this 25 mile per hour zone. I, had been driving for a few weeks. I was feeling kind of comfortable. And I was on my way home from school. So I was probably listening to like System of a Down or something like that. So I was just rocking out.
What are you getting on the table?
Exactly. And as I'm driving toward the 55 mile per hour zone, I'm speeding up, right? Because I'm like, well,
I'm heading out of town.
Exactly. So cruising, accelerating. At the time that I pass the intersection, I'm probably going 45 miles an hour. So technically this is still in the 25 mile per hour zone, but it's right at the edge of town, whatever. Nobody ever cares. But this particular time, there was one of the probably 4 cops in my town that was sitting right at that intersection. And I probably would have been able to see him if I was even looking. I looked over dead in his eyeballs, and he looked me dead in my eyeballs, and I knew that I was going to get pulled over. Yep. I knew that he saw me. He knew I was going 45, and he was going to pull me over for sure. And so at that moment, I started to freak out. Like it was like an instant adrenaline rush. I'm done. Like, what am I going to do? My parents are going to kill me, all this stuff. But what I didn't recognize right at the moment was there was a car behind me. And the car behind me was close enough that the cop was not able to pull out until after that car had gone. As the car passed, the cop pulled out, but the car that was there knew that it was a cop, and so they were going to only go 25 miles an hour. And so they slowed way down because we were probably both going 35 before.
Right.
So they slowed way down. The cop is behind them. And like I said, this was at the bottom of a hill. So in that one instant, I thought, well, okay, let's do it. So I hit the gas as hard as it could go. And this is a really weenie car, so it wasn't much, but it did start to accelerate. And so over this hill, it wasn't actually that far to my house. So I was like, oh my God, I think I might be able to do this. So I hit the gas. I start accelerating away. I'm probably going 75, 80 miles an hour at this point. And I look back in my rearview mirror, and they're still halfway up the hill because the car behind me has a cop behind him, so he's not going to go more than 25. So they're back there, and I am shooting away. And it was like, I guess it must have been like kind of two hills, and these are big enough hills where if you're at the bottom of the hill, you can't see what's over the top of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I went down the hill, up the hill, down the hill. I could see the cop and the car cresting the hill behind me, but then our driveway was kind of in the trough of the next hill. I was somehow able to turn into our driveway, and we have it was kind of out of town, so our driveway is a little bit longer, and there's some trees and stuff. So I turned in my driveway, and I drove as fast as I possibly could up the driveway, got out of the car, ran into the house, and as I was getting out of the car, I looked, and both of them passed the driveway. And to me, and the best part to me was that I felt in that moment like I had been in an actual chase.
Yeah.
I felt in that moment like I had escaped the police, that I was cool enough to have done that, but I was going to get away with it. It was maybe the biggest rush of my young life.
Exhilarating.
It was exhilarating. In reality, I'm sure that once the cop realized that the other car was going to be there, he was like, and then just decided that he wasn't gonna.
Guaranteed that's what happened, because at no point did the flashers come on, right? That was a key part that was missing, right?
There's no way he would have not been able to just drive around the other car and chase me down.
Yeah, or at the second that he puts flashers on, that car pulls over and then he blows past them to get you.
There was absolutely no reality to my escaping from the police
but
that day.
In your mind, you're gone in 60 seconds, joining up.
So he let me go, but I escaped in my mind.
Another harrowing escape, kind of. Another harrowing kind of escape, just like Travis's kind of escape from those cops.
He could have had me, but he didn't.
Well,
it was sad, actually.
That is actually not great, and that's going to segue us into a dark place we don't need to get into. What we do need to get into is your tweets. We're talking the Timmy Toes. We're talking tweets on twitter.com. The first tweet, which I will read for everyone, is from Timmy from May 23rd, 2015. Sees a baby. Crouches down, does some cute baby talk. No reaction from baby. Stands up slowly. You've made a powerful enemy today, baby. Classic Timmy. Making enemies with babies. That's what you do, right?
Yeah, that's, I guess, my trademark now.
Just unfortunately.
Unfortunately for the babies.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's right. Now, this one I have been burned by so many babies. This particular sequence hadn't exactly happened, but I mean, I feel this way all the time whenever I see a baby or when someone is showing me a baby. I usually get the cold shoulder. And I just decided at one point to put it into a tweet, and it seems to resonate with people a little bit.
Oh, definitely. So this is an amalgam of several incidents combined to just capture that feel.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, that's perfect. I feel the exact same way. Actually, I think I have a tweet that's sort of the opposite of this. Is I make a face at a baby. The baby laughs. Still got it.
Nice.
The same thing.
Yeah, it's literally has nothing to do with anything that you're doing. It's you have no input on what the baby does.
Just desperate for a baby validation.
Right.
And when you don't get it, that's when you make enemies, right?
It hurts. It hurts.
Yeah, it does. So any babies who are listening, maybe flash a smile. That's all we want to see.
Come on, so little effort.
Yeah, flash those gummy gums. Okay, so would you like to read your second tweet?
Okay, so I don't know how you usually do this. So this one was tweeted out at 3:40 p.m., April 3rd, 2015. Thousands of puppies flooding onto the battlefield. General. Stay strong, men. Soldiers just petting puppies everywhere.
This is the visual of all the soldiers just petting the puppies.
Just everywhere, covering this I picture this hilly battlefield with all these contours. There's mud at the bottom, and these are medieval soldiers, right? So they're in their chainmail armor, and it's just a really brutal scene, except instead of an opposing army, it's puppies.
And the men cannot handle it.
They can't. They succumb to the puppies immediately and just start petting them everywhere.
And I wonder if that has ever been attempted in battle, medieval or otherwise. The using of cute puppies to subdue your enemy.
I imagine it would be extremely successful. I can't think of any reason why it wouldn't.
I think so too. Actually, it kind of reminds me of that Monty Python scene from the Holy Grail, right? The bunny. They're like,
Yes.
oh, it's just a cute bunny. And then it kills everybody.
They let their guard down.
That's it. Never let your guard down, especially around puppies.
That's right.
Well, that's a very good one. So thanks for that one. Here is the third one. Barber hands me the mirror to check the back. Looks good. I lie after a few seconds of being unable to get the mirror to angle properly. We've all been there.
I think it's maybe in a barbershop, it's a universal experience. If you've been to a barbershop, they do this every time.
They do
They
it.
hand you the freaking mirror to look in the back, and it just goes everywhere. I'm looking at the guy next to me. I'm looking at him. I don't know what I'm looking at.
Yeah, definitely
And
not
then
the
you just have to
hairline.
give up.
They ask you sometimes, do they ask you if you want like a rounded bottom or the flat across? Sometimes they'll
Yeah.
ask you that. Don't ever get the rounded. Who gets the rounded?
Did you get the rounded?
No one gets the rounded. And if you do get the rounded, you better double check that those lines at the back when they show you the mirror.
It's a disaster. The barbershop is a disaster. I hate it. And that's why I go as little as possible.
Do you have a regular barber that you go to, or do you go to like a First Choice or a Sam's, Fantastic Sam's? Do they have that there still?
I have never heard of Fantastic Sam's. I've heard of Supercuts.
Okay, yeah, Supercuts. That's the same idea. Where you just go
No,
in and it's like
I-
a student, which is like,
I usually try to find like a local barbershop that is cash only and is the cheapest one I can find.
yeah, that's the
And
smart
it
way.
usually
to do it.
ends up being okay. And then I try not to go jump around from barbershop to barbershop.
That
But-
is the key, Timmy. I think you nailed the key point of barbershops. Get a regular one where everybody knows your name. They know your haircut. You don't have to tell them. It's like a usual. You're like, the regular? Of course the regular. Every time.
If you can, yeah, it's good, but it also can be extra heartbreaking if that barber vanishes or retires or something like that.
Has that
'Cause
happened to you?
It did happen to me.
It did? Was it
Yeah.
the retiring?
It was retiring, yeah. It was in the barber that I went to all when I was a kid ended up retiring at some point, and it was devastating. Years of haircuts down the drain.
Dang. Yeah, that actually.
Years of learning the regular haircut.
Yeah, I never had to say. Same thing happened to me. My barber retired when I was in high school, I think, and then I just kept going place to place. Could never find a place that could never get two haircuts the same. You know, it was like this person did okay, but then I go back to that same place. That person's gone. You know, and you're going to this other place, going to all the bad places.
Yeah.
So
It's an endless string of pain.
and still to this day, I mean, I moved to a new town now, so I've been doing the rounds here. Have not yet found my barber.
Oh no.
Still going
Well-
to like First Choice style places.
That sucks.
It does suck. Luckily, not many people see my haircut.
Is that true?
No, I guess a lot
Do you
of people
wear like
see
a
it.
hat all the time or
No, that's not true. I just meant like in terms of like my internet friends. Like, I don't have to update my picture with my haircut every time because that would be awful. Great. Well, thank you for giving us those tweets. I know it's hard to pick your own tweets to be read, but you did it.
Yeah.
You sound pretty excited about it.
Yeah, you're right. It is tough. I mean, difficult to try to make yourself choose.
Yeah, they're your babies, and they've made powerful enemies today.
Yeah. Yes.
Beautiful. So now that brings us to tweets from other people. So your first tweet from great tweeter Nathan Usher at the Nate Wolf. Would you like to read this one?
Sure. Holes in an old lady's hand as I help her across the street. Don't bother struggling. You're my grandma now.
Classic Nate Wolf. You're my grandma now.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite tweets because this is one of the ones that I kind of discovered, along with the whole weird Twitter, whatever people want to call it, kind of realm. And for whatever reason, the imagery of this just struck me as fantastic, because it means that the grandma or the old lady did start to struggle.
Yeah, she figured this out immediately, and it turns dark. It's a kidnapping.
Yeah, and that, I don't know, that just, it really hit my funny bone.
I think it's great, and it could even be like a short film. Like, just how, like, it's 2 lines, but really you could make this a short film.
Yeah, there's a lot in there.
There's a lot in there for just being 2 lines. So, yes, great tweet. Good pick. Definitely everyone follow Nate at the Nate Wolf. All right, moving on. The next tweet is from LOHEL at LOHEL. Why call it a belly button? It doesn't do anything when you press it. Click, click, click. See? Neighbor's garage door slamming up and down.
Yeah, this is another one of those tweets that kind of hit right when I was kind of joining Twitter, and the pure ridiculousness of it is fantastic. Like, nothing about it makes any sense.
It's like
there's no rational anything to this, which is amazing. Like, just the thought of something this insane happening is it's amazing.
And yet it's a through line. You can definitely follow it from A to B, and it completely makes sense. And
Exactly.
And yet it's completely absurd at the same time. So Thank you, LOHEL, for writing that tweet, and thank you, Timmy, for bringing it to our attention. Now the third tweet from Some Clever Thing at Some Clever Thing. Crappy stuff for jerks. And we've, of course, mentioned her on previous podcasts. So the tweet that she has written for us now is this. Reflecting on the past. Ah, yes, I see what the problem is. See all of this? Gestures at everything. All of this is wrong. Just a classic. Life is wrong.
Yeah, I identify with that sentiment deeply, but also just in this particular tweet, the imagery that it kind of conjures up of someone like a researcher or somebody with like whiteboards or like chalkboards and a bunch of like diagrams and stuff of like everything that's happened, and you can just point to everything.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a great interpretation. Like the sum of all knowledge, they're just pointing at it.
This so it's like wrong. Some kind of official thing, but the punch is just that everything is just all wrong.
Well, yeah, because the joke for me is like I couldn't even picture how you would gesture at everything. I just imagine they're like arms open, just like spinning around.
Flailing around.
Just everything.
Yeah, so for me, this one, it hits a couple of good things for me in a tweet. And I like this one a lot. And I like Rebecca a lot. So.
I like it Rebecca. Great to know her name. Definitely everyone follow at Some Clever Thing. Your joke is factually incorrect. A guide to dying alone.
You'll be very happy that you did.
Yes. Well, we've done it. We have arrived at questions from Twitter.
Oh, boy.
Are you ready, Timmy, to start fielding these
ready.
Questions? The first question comes from friend of the show, Mike Bigby, at Mike Bigby. Question all the way from the United Kingdom. Question number 1. Why is there suffering in the world?
So I said this before, I think on the record, and I believe that suffering exists because some people insist on having pulp in their orange juice.
Oh, no.
All worldwide conflict stems from pulp in the orange juice.
Well, that just brought the podcast way down. Let's bring this levels way up. So, why is there suffering? It's because of the pulp. Well, there you have it. Thank you, Mike. And second question, who's your favorite Chuckle Brother?
I don't know what a Chuckle Brother is. And I did read this question, but I refused to Look it up.
Okay. Looks like Barry David Elliott and Paul Herman Elliott are English family entertainers, better known as Barry Chuckle and Paul Chuckle, the double act, the Chuckle Brothers. All right.
Well, I guess in that case, I suppose you really wouldn't be able to pick just one.
You can't pick one. Wait, yeah, you can. Barry or Paul?
Barry.
Oh, going Barry. I'm right deep into the Chuckle Brothers rabbit hole right now. No, I'm fully focused on this podcast. Favorite Chuckle Brother? Paul.
Barry.
Right? Oh, dang it.
Barry.
It was Barry. Mine's Paul, of course.
Wrong.
So thank you, Mike, for those great questions. And everyone definitely go check out his episode of this podcast. Now, the next question comes from one of our favorite people, very first friend of the show, and just the best, Jess at JessOkFine. Thank you for your questions, Jess. The first of which is, have you ever met a good baby?
I have met a good baby, but it was a really long time ago, so I don't really remember. The truth is, I don't meet that many babies.
Right. We were talking about this before. You don't normally have good luck with them when you do meet them.
No, and so I do have a very skewed opinion.
Right.
I'm sure some of them are good, but let's be honest, most of them are bad.
And definitely most of them are your enemies.
That's true, yes.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, Jess. The second question, of course, more of a comment. Please tell us about your dog. Which, yes, please tell us about your dog.
Yeah, my dog's name is Lola. And
L-O-L-A, Lola?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's
Sorry
exactly
about that. Had to.
Yes. And she's a little border collie mutt dog that we adopted last year from the Houston summer, where she was a stray dog.
Oh, wow.
And because of that, we don't really know a tremendous amount about her past, but she's an extremely loving little dog. We actually had to get her x-rayed for some stuff, and it's actually really sad that because there's she has like some pellet gun pellets in her hide. So she probably had a pretty rough little go of it for a while. So that just makes us all the more grateful to have her with us now.
Yeah, and let me say thank you, you guys, for adopting. That's really cool. I definitely applaud and support your decision to adopt and stick with it, because it's not always easy, but definitely so many animals need adoption, and it's sort of really great to see when they find a good home like yours.
Yes, I feel very strongly about that as well. It's extremely rewarding, and she's a little light of our little family here. So.
Oh, Lola. Yeah. Well, that's very nice. I'm very sorry to hear about her murky and mysterious past.
Yeah.
Maybe she pissed off the wrong baby.
Yeah.
Well,
babies are tough down here.
Babies are extra tough down in the heart of Texas. So thank you, and shout out to Lola, of course. And now we get to Jess's third and final question. If I were going to put a new portico on my house, could I use cedar?
Yes, you could use cedar. You could use cedar for the whole thing, but I would recommend only using cedar for the exterior finish, like shingles or like planks or something like that. It would be much less expensive to build the framing of it using whatever local wood species is most readily available and least expensive. Probably some kind of southern pine.
Yeah, some sort of pine.
I'm guessing.
You're thinking,
I'm guessing based on your geography.
So you're helping her out, giving her the look that she wants, which is that sweet, sweet cedar, but with the price that she can afford by having the main part be pine.
Precisely.
Well, that is great. And why would she be asking you such questions, Timmy? What sort of knowledge do you have of such issues?
I have some knowledge of building design.
Timmy's an engineer. We got a smart dude on our hands here, everybody. Just FYI.
No.
Well, ERTW. Only my engineer listeners are going to get this. So this next question comes from last week's friend of the show, Abby at Abby Cohen WL. Now, her question is, what's a movie or book you love, even though most people you know don't?
So I have plenty of options for this. I don't know if it's my taste or what, but people tend to hate on things that I like.
All right, hit us.
But first, chief among them is the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Oh, starring John Leguizamo and Bob Hoskins?
Bob Hoskins.
Bob Hoskins.
Exactly. I will say on air right now that I don't see anything wrong with that movie. I think it is an absolute delight from start to finish.
Okay. I can't confirm. I have seen it multiple times, but the last time I saw it was still probably a decade or so ago, maybe. So I can't say if it holds up still. But at the time, I thought it held up a little. I mean, I didn't realize that like it was very bad. Like some of the costumes and like the Koopa people were really weird. I mean, you know, that was the time.
I think that everyone that doesn't like this movie is just too mad at the world. There's no reason not to like Super Mario Brothers, the movie.
Okay. All right. Well, it's 4 out of 10 on IMDb, 15% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah. So that's the thing that I like that nobody else likes.
Well, I remember just talking about the movie. I was incredibly stoked before the movie came out. Like, I obviously was big into Nintendo, being a child of that generation, growing up with the bros. And when I saw that first poster with the big M and they're on it, and it was like, yes, finally, a movie for me. And then I remember being slightly disappointed.
See, this is what I'm saying. Nobody agrees with me, and that's fine.
Yeah, so I guess that definitely applies to the question that most people don't like that movie.
Most people hate it, in fact. I think that almost everyone hates it.
Yeah,
people aren't indifferent. They actually hate it.
Yeah, Dennis Hopper was the bad guy.
King Koopa.
I mean, it was just weird. Any other follow-ups to that? You said you had a couple.
No
book that you thought of that you like that most people don't?
No what?
A book.
Oh. Actually, I think I am on the opposite of those. I think I don't like books that a lot of people do like.
Okay, hit us with one of those. Hit us with a book you didn't like.
Man, I'm going to lose all my followers.
Backing you into so many corners here. This is a total got ya podcast.
I had to stop reading Harry Potter after the 4th one.
Oh, here we go. You picked the one series that everyone is going to hate you for saying anything bad about. You know JK listens to this podcast.
That's all I'm going to say.
All right. Well, that's fine. You're a wizard. You can do what you like. Okay, so thank you very much, Abby, for those questions. And we keep on moving. From friend of the show, Gwen Lawson at Miss Gwen L. I think that's 4 in a row from friends of the show. That's a new record. So her question is, if you could add any sport to the Olympics, what would it be?
See, this is a really, really tough one because the Olympics already has so many out in left field kind of sports.
Yeah.
And there's really nothing that I feel passionate about that I would want to be in the Olympics. So, I mean, no like current regular human sports, I guess is what I'm saying. I think a good addition to the Olympics would be dog events.
All right. I'm listening.
Agility competitions where they do those like obstacle courses.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking the ones where you throw the bait out and they jump into the water and see which dog jumps the farthest.
Dock diving or something.
Okay.
Dock jumping.
Yes, that. And I suppose any other dog related or dog sports would be fantastic to add to the Olympics.
And just to be clear, it's dogs doing them, not people doing them.
Correct.
Oh, and that's where you get your audience. Those are going to sell out.
I would buy a ticket. I would buy a plane ticket to anywhere in the world to see
Dog Olympics.
The Dog Olympics as part of the real Olympics alongside
straight up. If you are from Russia, you have to like walk in the opening ceremonies and you have to walk some of the Russian dogs that come in with you. Yes. That is good. Well, IOC, if you're listening, get in touch with Timmy at the Timmy Toes and make this happen.
Please.
Olympics are in danger. It might not happen, It's like a financial nightmare for cities to do.
It is. It has not had a good run of late.
It's not good. Well, great. Thanks, Gwen, for that question. And finally, from Peacezilla at Peacezilla on Twitter, how often do you think about your balloon?
I will be completely honest. I hadn't thought about it in a really long time until I read that question. And then I did. And I did shed a tear in my car. So not often, but peace, when it happens, it is an intense experience.
Well, there you go. Thanks for bringing it up, Peace. Bringing up old memories. I guess it's an inside joke that maybe I'm not recalling.
Oh, so I have a tweet where there's the subject of the tweet, me, sees a balloon high up in the air and becomes overwhelmed with nostalgia and like lets out something like my balloon.
I do remember it now. Classic Timmy tweet. So thank you, Peace, for that great question and a great callback to Timmy's fun tweet. And I think that just about does it. So we're starting to wind our way down to the end of the podcast. One thing I did want to mention is the Burrito song.
Oh, God.
We are going to add this amazing piece of music to the end of the podcast. Right when we wrap up, this song is going to play, and everyone, you got to listen to it. So, Timmy, tell us what this is.
So this was actually an entry to a contest that Sky put on, asking for songs about burritos, and this I actually copied her original tweet, because her original tweet was the music from Maria and West Side Story, the movie or the musical, or whichever version you choose to align yourself with. So Maria, a very famous song, but her tweet had just the word burrito repeated over and over again as the words to that song.
Right.
And I suppose that was perhaps the impetus for the contest. And so when that kind of went out, I couldn't help myself but to actually attempt to execute that exact thing.
Buddy, you not only attempted, you knocked it out of the park. This is art. It is great. I love it so much. Thank you for allowing me to add it to the end of the podcast. Everyone, don't miss it. Listen all the way to the end, to the very, very end, tippy toes, and enjoy it. Just really let it sink in.
Well, those are very kind words, Stephen. Thank you.
Yeah, I really like it. It just came up again, I guess, this week in preparation for the show, and when I re-listened to it, I just got very happy. So, thank you for the ray of light that you provided with this song, and I hope all the listeners listen to it and they send you a note saying if they enjoyed it or not.
Well, yeah. Please don't send me a note if you didn't enjoy it.
That's what only the good part. Only if you do enjoy it. Is there anyone you would like to shout out?
Well, there's so many people, but I do want to thank you specifically for letting me be on your podcast. I guess it's kind of surreal to me to be recorded at all, but on a cool show about cool people is really kind of special for me.
Well, that is
thank you very much, Stephen.
Very sweet of you to say, and obviously thank you again for joining me as well. I know I had to twist your arm a little bit because this is your first podcast appearance, but I think you nailed it, buddy. I think you nailed it. So I had a great time, and if there's nothing else, then we will start to wrap up the show with the theme song.
Do it.
So thanks again. Thanks everyone for listening. Shout out to the coffee crew. What up, barber?
Yeah, I think it's the Maple House right now.
Maple House. All my favorite people in there. And thank you once again, Timmy.
Thanks, Stephen. It was a pleasure.
The most beautiful sound I ever heard. Burrito. burrito, burrito. All the beautiful sounds of the world in a single word. Burrito, 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 burrito. I just met a food named Burrito, and suddenly that name will never be the same to me. Burrito, I just kissed a food named Burrito, and suddenly I found how wonderful a sound can be. Burrito, say it loud and there's music playing. Say it's soft and it's almost like praying. Burrito, I'll never stop saying burrito. Burrito, 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 burrito. Say it loud and there's music playing. Say it's soft and it's almost like praying. Burrito, I'll never stop saying burrito. The most beautiful sound I